Today will mark the last day of a 3-month-long adventure, experience, journey. Ah, fuck.
Do
you think that's gonna protect you?
No, I have to be more strategic in my plan to destroy it.
There is no strategic plan. It needs to die. The moment you see it, burn it, or you will be doomed.
Burn it before they get archers.
So you decide to get some friends together to play a game. Some strategy, some risk, and some RNG. Something that takes some trust and betrayal. Like a sharp knife right to the back. right between the shoulder blades. Right in the goddamn spine. Kill 'em all. So you decide to play Sid Meier's Civilization V. It's a role-playing civilization building RPG sort of game. Kinda hard to say, kinda hard to explain. But you get your guys together, and you could say you play games to win games, but this isn't a game you win. You'll probably never finish a single game in this. I have like 900 hours, no, maybe 1,000 hours into this game. Jesus Christ. The point remains, I've only beaten 2 games my entire play of this. You don't play it to win it. You play it for the journey. It started as all things do. Small. One tribe amongst the tundra and wilderness eventually became 2 tribes amongst the tundra and wilderness. In this unknown world, the people of Restot, my people, had nothing to expect, nothing to know. We had whales, we had mountains, and we had the cold. We needed more. We needed to survive. So going south, we met Mr. Enter, the leader of the Shone tribe. He was a good distance, or at least at the time it felt so. There was a forest, wine, and plentiful resources between us. Envy was for the future. For now, there was peace. Over time, we began to explore more, seeing other things out there, other people to find, and other people we did find. Eventually found Swazia. It was a player who didn't seem to interact with us much. He was to the far east. We couldn't see him just yet, but we settled a town near him, opened up the opportunity for some trade, and there were so many mountains in the way. It was still so isolating, so alone, so quiet. Eventually we found their city, past the mountains, the capital of Swazia. No one was able to play as Swazia. Sadly, we wanted them to, but sadly they never had time to join us. So, they stayed as a quiet, larger city-state than most. Eventually we began continuing. Turn after turn, cycle after cycle, week after week. We rejoined and could expand this tribal society. See, this is how these games play. We seem to have this adventure of exploration and wonder, and eventually found Mongo, the far, far east, and then Swazia began expanding towards us. We couldn't allow that, so we began taking the territory from them, holding our borders, understanding what regions are ours, Enters, Mongos, and the new one, Waz, leader of the Greeks. Mongo of the Atens, the Swazia, and Mr. Enter of the Shone, as well as all these city-states to the west. I began seeing the limbo I was in, trapped next to an inland sea, a northern sea, and then the outer Arctic Ocean. Eventually I found good old Caesar, leader of the banking clans. See, he was to the far south, way past mountains. Didn't reach him until a much farther age and time, but eventually we were starting to meet all the different players of this society. Everything was no longer just exploration and wonder. Politics were being formed, factions were being made, schemes were cooking. The age of peace and travels is over. Now comes the Colonial Age. I'm building the highway on this side. No Pass Valley? Kyle, you put that right on his fucking capital. That's the rudest thing you could have done.
Wait, his capital's there?
So I guess one of the biggest questions is, who is the biggest threat at the moment?
Chaos
knew it would
agents.
never
First
happen,
Congress
so-
of the Old Arstotzka is now being named First Congress of the Imperial Union. That the Imperial Union, as a political faction, is one that can be your ally as you pay fees to it, or can be eradicated by it.
Always as a regime begins.
It
Oh
begins.
no.
Okay, Gores, I think I finally arrived on this fucking battlefield of Helsinki.
Ah, yes. I dominate the political world. I forgot about that.
You completely dominate the political landscape.
I can vote. You can all vote against me and I'll still win. Spain? I swear to God, Berserker Bear, I see you spreading to my Iron Curtain over here. You take that fucking religion and you shove it back into the ocean.
Manila asked me to.
Manila is gonna fucking burn if it converts.
Well, I look forward to seeing Madrid on fire.
Perfect.
Who to nuke first? That is the question.
What if you attack Sweden, so they're more likely to accept my defensive pact? Just declare war on Sweden. In return for chocolate. That sounds good.
I'll do that for chocolate.
Yeah, I'll go to war for Charlotte.
This world of thirsting warlords and complex political and militant warfare will only get worse as the First World War begins. There's a lot of military tension right at this 3-point territory mark. Oh
Do
my
I have to
God.
literally finish?
Oh
a
my
fort?
God, this is insane! There are cannons, riflemen, artillery guns on every side.
Wait, take a picture of it. Let me see.
What?
Caesar? I think that World War.
The war started?
Oh my god.
You're gonna have to keep us informed on this one.
And informed you shall be, 8 great nations formed upon this rock. I, Grand Marshal of the enduring Ostot Empire, General Mongo of the opportunistic Otton Nation, Führer Waz of the Greek regime, Caesar, leader of the banking clans of Xenia, Emperor Neopha of the Rin dynasty, mysterious President Enter of the Shon Republic, King Nick of the Spawn Monarchy. Of course, there is also Swazia, the leaderless collective. They are irrelevant. Ignore them.
You know, I don't appreciate that.
These are the borders which formed over the many years into colonization and expansion. What was left was claimed by all the many city-states across the whole world. Yet this is only context to what is to be unveiled. The First World War, the Great World War, started here, at the borders between Greek, Xenia, and Spawn. A Cold War was building among this trio of borders. Xenia used the value of trade to place importance to themselves so they wouldn't be a target, though this only deterred so much aggression. Both Greeks and the Spawn were autocracy societies, determined to hold militant might among the eastern face of the world. Although the Greeks were one of the founding members of the Imperial Union, chair of the Imperial Union's military affairs. For Spawn, well, they were alone. Losing its island colonial satellite city to Astot in a previous colonial war, Spawn had little record of victory to boast of. This led their own people to outcry their own little faith in their current ideology. Demands to take up the more practiced ideology of order that was more popular amongst the outer world put great pressure on the Spawn government. Pressure that the chair of the Imperial Union's military affairs used to great advantage, building a wall of an army across the entire border. Now Xenia, under the rule of Caesar, knew that his trade would not protect him forever, and so he decided to try to associate with us, the Imperial Union. Yet he chose to do so in a manner that wasn't devoted or loyal enough to be worth any of our times. The scum. Instead, forming a pseudo-subfaction called the Xenia Spawn Defensive Alliance, on allowing the Spawn government to align Spawn soldiers on Xenia's border across all of Greek. Eventually, Nick had a choice: to either suffer the resistance his people had against his ideology, or choose a different one. A risk he took, and an act the Greeks took full advantage of. With the advancing of the Greeks' military forces to a superior technological level, and all the Spawn cities completely paralyzed of such ideological transformation, the Great War truly began. Waz, leader of the Greeks nation, marched all his armies south into Spawn's northern border. His army mostly comprised of modern infantry and supporting artillery. The tactics were most gruesome. As the forces acted as a barrier wall, keeping the enemy at bay, the artillery would continue to rain upon the enemy, destroying all resistance as the army could continue to grind south. Xenia, at first at war due to the defensive alliance, broke off, allowing the fight to happen while having no part in it. Even the forming of his own pseudo-faction, he couldn't even stay loyal to that. Both sides were hurting economically, scientifically, and in all forms of production from the stagnant war. Though once more the Greeks had an advantage. Those that were subservient to the Imperial Union, such as the Ottans of the north, and the leader of the Union, me, provided great aid to Waz's campaign. Slowly, just south of the Spawn's holy mountain, their first city was nearly lost to Waz and the Greeks' power. Yet, Nick had a clever idea. Now, I wouldn't call this one that anyone expected, and truly was a work of art.
Caesar.
Do I still have? No, I don't.
Since you have so much extra of this, I would like this to be provided to help.
There you go. That's how we're gonna divide our cities.
That is not gonna work. That is not gonna work.
Oh my god.
Caesar, what did he pay you?
Oh my god.
What did you pay him for that? I'll pay it back to you.
Oh my
he
god.
paid me 50 gold a turn.
50 gold a turn? Oh, you're not gonna win
Okay,
that one.
maybe I can't pay that.
You're not gonna win that.
How could you afford that shit?
Holy
He's-
shit.
He's been trading with me a lot.
This is the biggest power move I've ever seen.
Oh my god. And so concludes World War I. The trickeries and masteries. It was quite enthralling watching the world fall to war. Tune in next time for World War II and the ticking clock to doomsday. This is your host, the Grand Marshal, ruler of our dystopia. Thank you, and good night. What? You think there was gonna be a joke at the end of this? Back to work.